This is St. Hedwig's Church on 4th and Hayes Street in Chester, Pennsylvania. This was probably built around the early 1900s, and the artistry in the building is so beautiful.
The church was named after Hedwig of Silesia. She was the Duchess of Silesia from 1201 and of Greater Poland from 1231, as well as the High Duchess Consort of Poland from 1232 until 1238. She was canonized by the Catholic Church in 1267 by Pope Clement IV. This is the main altar at St. Hedwig's Church. It is carved from white marble, and although it appears to be a monolithic structure, it is probably carved out of modular units. The central figure of the main altar, of course, is Jesus Christ, and this has significance to the side altars and the overall theme of the Holy Family. Below the golden crucifix, behind the golden door, is the tabernacle which holds the Holy Eucharist. In front of the altar, where the priest prepares the Eucharist, there is a table with a marble relief of the Last Supper. Originally, this relief was part of the main altar. Here we see the pulpit where the priest delivers the sermon from, and it's carved of white marble. The cornices on the pillars have such fine detail that you don't see craftsmanship like that anymore. In fact, I don't think you'd see anything carved out of marble like that in the churches of today. To the left of the main altar is another altar dedicated to the Virgin Mary, the Mother of Jesus Christ. To the right of the main altar is an altar dedicated to Joseph, the father of Jesus, thus completing the central theme of both the main altar and the adjacent altars depicting the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. In the rear of the church, there are two confessionals where the faithful would come to confess their sins and to receive penance from the priest. Penance was usually assigned in the form of prayers. You may have to say so many Our Fathers or how many Hail Marys or rosaries, depending on what the priest felt that the weight of the sins were. Of course, people back then didn't really have awful sins. Maybe they drank too much or gambled or possibly had impure thoughts, but I doubt any of the good people who were the parishioners of this church had anything heinous to confess.
The church is adorned with beautiful stained glass windows all along the sides of the church and in the back where the choir is. The first panel appears to be of the Virgin Mary, and the second panel appears to be Jesus with the Virgin Mary, and I don't know who the other figure is. The next panel is of Saint Casimir, another Polish saint. After Saint Casimir, we have a depiction of Saint Adalbert, another Polish saint who was martyred while trying to spread Christianity through the region. The last panel on this side of the church seems to depict a baptism of type, although I'm not really sure who or what is depicted in this, other than it seems to be a baptism. On the opposite side of the church, the first stained glass window appears to portray the Archangel Michael. The next window appears to portray two angels and Mary possibly administering the sacrament of communion. The next window depicts Saint Francis, and although the figure looks like Jesus, question whether that's a seraphim with all the sets of wings that it has. I'm not really certain. The next window depicts Saint Stanislaus, another Polish saint who was also a martyr. The final panel portrays Saint Dominic and Saint Katrina of Siena. In the rear of the church, above the choir, is a beautiful circular stained glass window. I'm uncertain about what it depicts. Here we see the choir balcony and the large pipe organ it houses, along with a view from above the church. In addition to the stained glass windows, there are also 14 plaster reliefs of the Stations of the Cross. The Stations of the Cross are a 14-step devotion that commemorates Jesus Christ's last days on earth as a man. The 14 devotions focus on specific events of his last day, beginning with his condemnation. The stations are commonly used as a mini pilgrimage as an individual moves from station to station. At each station, the individual recalls and meditates on a specific event from Christ's last day. Specific prayers are recited, and the individual moves to the next station until all 14 are complete.
This is the old rectory where the priests were housed, and they used to hold church business in here. That's where the church business office was. It's come down a little bit and looks like it needs a good amount of repair, but this was a whole service parish. They had priests that were housed on site. They actually had a convent, and they had a school that was part of the church where they used to teach kids in Catholic education. This is the original school that was affiliated with the church when it opened. They later had to build another school with more classrooms as the students began to, or the student population used to increase.
This is the newer school, which was built on the opposite side of the church. The newer school included more classrooms and a gymnasium and other facilities that weren't available in the original school.
Now this is part of the convent, and there's a little alcove with an altar there. And apparently they buried possibly some nuns. I mean, I don't know who these people were, but they were buried on site. Now this was the convent, and they had a full staff of nuns who actually used to run the school, and they used to, I think they were, oh God, they Benedictine nuns, or I'll have to research that because I don't know what order they were, but I'm sure it's written down someplace. But they used to wear the full metal habit, you know, with the long flowing robe and the rosary at the hip, and, you know, belted there with the high, you know, squared off hat piece. I'll have to see if I can find a picture of that, and we could go from there. But this place definitely has some history, and of course the convent looks like it could use some repair too. But back in the day, you know, this used to serve the community, and it was a Polish church. Because back then they used to have ethnic churches where, you know, you would have an Italian church, you would have a Irish church, you'd have a Polish church, you know, whatever ethnicity you were, you know, you would have a community and you would have a church. And this is what the what the Polish people built back in the early part of the 19th century. Yeah, there's definitely some disrepair there. I mean, if you look at that one eave up there, I don't know what that's for, but it's rusting away. And of course, you know, you have your bell tower there too. They actually had real bells in there at one point.